United Opt-Out National has held, in the previous 2 years, in 2012 and 2013, roughly the same time, Occupy DOE in the Department of Education in Washington, where we spoke for 3 days in front of that ugly building, which has turned even uglier based upon what's going on in there the last few years, and pretty much ignored. Again, this is the big difference. We are no longer being ignored. People are coming out of the woodwork because they recognize the power in parents and teachers and administrators coming together on this issue. And that's what's going to change things. Now, I wasn't here to talk about that. And May 17th marks the 60th anniversary of the Brown decision that was supposed to create equal education in this country. May 17th is also the date we're holding our rally in New York City. The problem is we don't have equal education in this country anymore. And in addition to the socioeconomic and issues of that sort that were at the forefront back in the 1950s, we have another issue now. It's called the creation of a two-tiered class system of education. One for public schools and one for private schools and elite public schools. Now there's an interesting choice of words here, and I'm so glad they decided to call this the Common. A little story, David Coleman was, when he first started out, wanted to teach in New York City, and he was not hired. So, there were no, as somebody said earlier, there were no K-12 teachers involved in this process. Only after the standards, which were created really by university professors and other folk, were teachers allowed to come in, and basically they were sort of self-selected for people who would endorse them. And that's pretty easy to find. Now, since public schools, and by the way, common is a synonym for public schools, back in the 19th century, that's what they were called. They're required to follow the national standards, but not those private schools. So I go look, and you see there's another definition of the word common. The second definition of the word common, which is really, to me, the working definition when we talk about Common Core, is this, quote, characterized by a lack of privilege or special status. So who gets the Common Core? Commoners get the Common Core. But that was part of the law. Now, the law was written in a bipartisan fashion. So we had people from the Republican Party and on the Democratic Party. The big leader for the push for this was none other than Edward Kennedy. So when you have President Bush on one side of the aisle and then you have Edward Kennedy on the other side of the aisle, everybody says, "Wow, this must be a good idea." Those guys never agree on anything, except taking money from corporate campaigning for the federal government, all right, to have national curriculum. So they don't call it curricula, they call it standards. But when you put standards and then you say, well, in order to achieve this, you have to teach that because that is what's going to be on the test, guess what they've created? Curricula. And they don't call it curricula, they call it modules. To me, a module is something that you go to space in, and hopefully it never comes back.